Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 271 of The Joy of Coding. Excuse me, my name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. We're going to be working on some Firefox stuff today. I hope you're interested in that, because that's what we're doing. Let's get started. Let me share my screen. First of all, I'm going to apologize right off the bat. I'm just getting over a cold. So if I sound a little congested, you get some of that like high quality throat clearing through this microphone. I apologize. I'm going to try and keep that to a minimum. And if it turns out my throat's starting to give out, I might have to end the stream early. We'll see how it goes. I hope it doesn't come to that. Let me just share my screen. All right. So, yeah, it's November 24th, 2021, episode 271. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I don't know how the stream's going to go. I have a sense of what I want to do and what I want to talk about. I've got some neat infos I want to go through. That's mainly what I wanted to do today. But who knows? Maybe we get sidetracked. Maybe we end up working on a bug. Maybe I'm doing a build right now in the background. Maybe that ends up saturating all my cores and OBS crashes. Anything could happen. And so we're just going to roll with the punches and see what happens. This is software development in the raw, so I'm not going to candy code any of it. It's warts and all. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to if you want. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the video description. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the details section. And for the folks on Twitch, again, I always feel like I should have this prepared with the link in my clipboard, and I never do. So let me just do that now. For the folks on Twitch, let me just drop this into the Twitch chat. Hang on a second. Into the Twitch chat. Here it is. The agenda. What you're seeing on screen, by the way, I don't know if I've ever shown you this recently. I think I've talked about it before. This is my soundboard called Wacky Morning DJ. It's not... I should probably, like, redo some of the CSS. I got a feeling that the... Flexbox rules, because I wrote this back in 2016, the Flexbox rules have changed, and so it's all like aligned to the bottom. But this is how I hit my sounds. I haven't done sounds in a while, but like,
Hey, what happened?
that's how this works. And let's see, what's a good one?
That's right.
So there you go. If you're interested in using Wacky Morning DJ, the repository for it is Wacky Morning DJ. I think I've got it up on GitHub if you want to use it. What's interesting about it, actually, because like that's not super exciting, the fact that it's that it plays sounds or anything. But what's interesting about it, what's interesting about it is that it plays the sounds where the server is running. So the server is currently running on my machine, which means that whenever I hit these buttons, it plays the sounds on this machine. But I could also like load up the UI, this web page, on my phone or a tablet and trigger the sounds that way, and it would still run on this machine. The sounds run on the machine where it's on. So as opposed to playing the sounds through the client, it plays it on the server side, which is useful because I don't have my tablet. I used to have a tablet that I'd hit the sounds on, and that was a very convenient way of doing it, but I don't have that tablet because I'm not in the office, and I didn't pick it up. Anyways, that's why Wacky Morning DJ. Talk about getting sidetracked. That's getting sidetracked. I also should point out there is an episode guide to the series. If you're watching the series and you want to know about what happened during a particular episode, check out the viewer-driven episode guide. Even better, if you have your own notes, addenda, corrections, things you want to expand on, you can submit a pull request to the repository where the episode guide is hosted. And if you're not sure what that means, you can follow these guides about what that means. I accept most, if not all, episode guide submissions, anything to make it more useful for you. Special shout out to Smurf D, who's the most prolific contributor to the episode guide. I think I've got a couple of pull requests to go through. I don't think I'll do those during the stream, but maybe immediately after. So a couple of things to announce. The first thing, so the Twitch Matrix bridge appears to be working again. If you're watching this on Twitch, hopefully you saw the link that I put in the Twitch chat with the agenda, because the bridge should be working. If it's not working, let me know. You know what? In fact, maybe I should just open the Twitch chat. Oh, good. I see some conversation from Smurf D over Twitch saying you're welcome. Hopefully, you saw the agenda that I posted in the Matrix over the bridge. You can let me know if that worked. Hopefully, it worked. Fingers crossed. But assuming it did, that means the bridge is working again. It wasn't working last week, and I got it working. I don't know what was broken. I just kicked it a few times, and then it started working. That's the first thing. The second thing is that winter holidays are coming, and I like to do something special around the winter holidays. Sometimes I'll do it during, like, I think one of the last winter holidays, there was, like, episode 200. I think it kind of coincided, if I remember correctly. Episode 200 was December 4th, so it was just around the holidays. And I think if I remember correctly, I did like spicy coding while doing an advent of code in Rust or something. And then what happened? Is that all? Yeah, and then we're getting close to the winter holidays again. And so December 15th is just before I go on holiday. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off. And I had a couple of ideas on things we could do on a holiday episode. I had 2 ideas. I'm willing to entertain other ideas, but these are the 2 ideas I had. I wanted to get your feedback. You can submit your feedback on these ideas with the Rate This Episode form. Just let me know what you thought. But my 2 ideas are, 1, we could watch Code Rush, which is a documentary that was made and put in the public domain. Oh wow, I didn't realize that this link is broken. Hold on. It's a documentary that was put in the public domain about when Netscape open sourced their code. Basically open sourced the Mozilla code base, and what that was like at the time. It's very like dated. If you watch it, it's right during the .com situation in the late 90s, I think, or early 2000s. The haircuts are pretty incredible, but the documentary itself is just available for free on YouTube. You can watch it. It's about an hour long, and I could add some color commentary to that. Like, there are a couple of people in the documentary that actually still work at Mozilla, contribute to the project, and I can talk a little bit about what I'm seeing. I don't know if that would be interesting. That's the first thing. And you can just watch Code Rush yourself. Like, if you follow this link, you can follow a link to the, I think there's a link to it on YouTube. Yeah, you can watch Project Code Rush on YouTube if you want. It's also on Vimeo, it looks like. And it's hosted by the Internet Archive. And it's annotated. The annotated Code Rush. And I realized that someone annotated it. But there are a bunch of, like, people who used to work at Mozilla still in there, yeah, there are a couple of people still here who were there back then. So that's one idea. We could watch that together. And we can watch it, I can pause it, we can eat popcorn, I can tell you about things as add filler information as we watch it. That's one. And the second thing, I found a game that I wrote back when I was first learning to program in QBasic. That was my first language, was QBasic. Actually, my first language was GW Basic, which is a variant of Basic. And then I got a QBasic compiler, QBasic 4.5, and I wrote a game back when I was first learning to program, and I found a copy of it, and I compiled it to the web so I can play it in the browser, and I could show you that game. It's like a kind of it's not a point-and-click adventure. It's an adventure game, kind of, using ASCII characters for graphics. It's pretty bad. Like, it's pretty dated, and it looks awkward because I wrote it when I was really young, and some of the humor probably doesn't land anymore, but we could cringe together if that's interesting. So let me know what you think. What would be better? Or if you got a completely different idea of something we could do, you can submit it using the Rate This Episode form. Finally, I want to do one more shout out. A shout out to Nicholas Piron, who's one of my colleagues who works on the JavaScript engine, aka SpiderMonkey. So SpiderMonkey is what powers the JavaScript running in Firefox, and NBP is what his IRC nick, or sorry, Matrix nick is, and he does live streaming as well. He just started doing it not that long ago. You can find his channel here. And if you follow that, I think there are a couple of recordings posted. You can watch him. Whoops, I didn't mean to erase that. You can watch NBP hacking on the engine, and I think doing some like reverse engineering. Let's take a quick peek at what's been going on. If we follow this, a couple of videos here. Reverse engineering SpiderMonkey. LIFO alloc part 2. LIFO alloc part 2. Okay, so there's There's some videos here. You should check it out. It's interesting. One's 22 minutes. The other one here is a minute 32. Total videos. It looks like this is part 1 of LIFO Alloc. So if the SpiderMonkey engine interests you, maybe you've watched Yulia's CodeHag compiler stream, and you are interested in going deeper into the SpiderMonkey engine, this stream might be of interest to you. So check it out. Also, NBP wrote this really cool add-on, which I've started to use, called Stylus Paper. And what's neat about Stylus Paper is it allows me to like annotate websites. It's an add-on. The icon unfortunately doesn't look very good in dark mode. That's okay. And if I click on this, I can start like drawing on the screen and like annotating stuff. Like I can circle this. Now it's not very pretty right now because let me just reverse undo some of these because I'm not using my stylus. But if I switched to my drawing display, which I can do right now, hang on. Let me drag this tab over to my drawing display. And sorry about that ping sound. But here's my drawing display. If I drag it over here and I use stylus, then I can like annotate using my stylus, and I can be like, okay, this was directed by David Winton, and this was the current CEO of Netscape at the time. And let us scroll down a little bit here. Let's see. This is where you can get the stuff and like all these. I can do this sort of stuff, which is handy if I'm going to be explaining stuff. So that's just, an FYI. I might start using that tool anytime I need to like for a Wikipedia page. Maybe that's not interesting, but maybe if we were looking at something on SearchFox, like as DocShell, for example, and I wanted to like comment on part of the source code, maybe that'd be interesting. Although now that I realize, like, SearchFox now has this dark mode, and I'm curious to know how stylus is going to work on A, such a long document, and B, in dark mode. Like, I think I might have to change the color whenever I'm using it on SearchFox. But details. I just was kind of excited about that. So anyways, back to my main screen. All right, so that was all the preamble, all I wanted to go through today for the preamble. So what did I actually want to talk about? Well, I have some neat infos that I want to go over. Some people have asked me for information, and I haven't actually looked at any of these yet, and I thought I'd go over these. I did this last week as well. Let me know if this is interesting. I haven't worked on any patches recently. I'm trying to change it up a little bit. Give you more variety, but if you'd prefer I just go deep and work on patches, that's cool too. I know some people have been asking for, what's it like working with Bugzilla and dealing with Bugzilla, so I'm trying to satisfy that using, by going through my neat infos. Some people want to see more reviews. Maybe you want to see me reviewing more patches. That seems to interest a bunch of you. So just let me know in the rate this episode how you're feeling. So this first one is DevTools Toolbox inappropriately creates new message handler framechild instances. This is bug 1742491. Let's see what this is about. So let's open that bug up. Okay, so this is a remote protocol bug filed 2 days ago by Wimbu. Using the session subscribe method to register for log entry added events, what? Causes a couple of window global message handlers to be created. We inappropriately handle these, we do not allow actors for Chromescope yet. Even though we do not allow actors for Chromescope yet. So what I know about the remote protocol is that this is the thing that ultimately powers browser instrumentation. So if you've ever used Puppeteer or a Marionette, I think this is the thing that ultimately like exercises and executes stuff in the browser over like for automation. Connect localhost, hit both green buttons to create a session and register for log events. Go back to the instance of Firefox, start in step 1, open the DevTools toolbox, observe the log output. couple of message handler registrations whereby one gets unregistered again. Also logging the document URI shows some stuff. So that's interesting. You can start Firefox with a remote debugging port and then load this. I wonder what this does. What is this? A WebDriver bidirectional demo client. So I guess this can connect to a local server and then start to send and subscribe to send events and subscribe to events or something, or messages. That's interesting. Adding a breakpoint to the actor created method following stack can be observed for the About DevTools toolbox. As it looks like the DevTools toolbox creates a wrapper around our actor, which causes an instance to be created. Checking this manager is process root. I can temporarily ignore the registration of the message handler and keep the actor inactive. Oh boy. An important thing here is that we use different code paths to create the actor. So if you're not sure what an actor is in this context, an actor is, I believe, a JS window actor. And I think we talked about those a few weeks ago, and there's documentation on JS actors here. But basically, these are the things that we use to glue, to sort of make it easier to communicate between processes. This is how JavaScript, our privileged JavaScript communicates between processes, is we register actor pairs and we send messages back and forth between them. And it sounds like we're creating an actor pair when we don't actually want one. We use different code paths to create the actor if you open the toolbox before subscribing or after. When I tried your scenario, I was opening the toolbox before and didn't get any message handler created for DevTools. This is because we explicitly exclude Chrome context and parent process context for broadcast in frame transport. But when we open DevTools after subscribing, then we rely on JS window actor to create the message handler. Before we create the message handler, there must be a DOM window created event, which fits the JS window actor definition. There must be a session data item with a context which matches the new window global. Okay, I'm not following. There's a lot of DevTools context I'm missing. I don't know how DevTools works. Since DevTools is using browser type content, it probably doesn't get excluded in the JS window actor logic. Chrome contexts are not filtered as expected. Huh, wait a second. All right, let me just go down to where the question that is being asked of me is. I'm not entirely sure what other front-end code is expected to be happening here. There are a number of content frames which are not like normal content, which could be being included by JS Windows actors intentionally, like the sidebar, browser embeds within pages like about add-ons and extension pop-ups. In general, code which wants to only apply to web content areas has been using Message Manager Groups attribute and the configuration filter to only the browsers group. I suppose if DevTools specifically is quite surprising for front-end engineers, we could opt scripts out of it by default and include DevTools true option to allow them to be targeted explicitly, but that adds some complexity and might muddy the meaning of include Chrome a bit. Sounds like I should have used Message Manager Groups here. I'll wait for feedback from Mike, but I suppose with Message Manager Groups, developers have enough filtering options. We probably don't need to make include Chrome more complex. We realize that JS window actors with include Chrome set to false are still created for DevTools UI browser elements, most likely because the toolbox element uses type content. I agree. So Message Manager Groups, what is that? That's a leftover. That's a holdover from the Message Manager days. I think if you watched my talk on, I did a talk a few episodes back on like browsing contexts and doc shells. I talked a little bit, I think, about message managers. And if I didn't, I apologize, but I should have. But basically, message managers were the old way that we would communicate between processes. And there's this leftover concept called message manager groups, which allows us to group various types of what we call browsers, the things that load documents. We tag them into groups, and then that way we can sort of differentiate different kinds of browsers. So for example, Nika highlights the sidebar as one. I've got a build going here. Let me cancel this build, and I can just show you with an artifact build, because I've got an artifact build here. Okay, so this content is being rendered by a browser element. This sidebar is also being rendered by a browser element, I believe. Same with this synced tabs thing. History, I believe that's all a browser element. What else are browser elements? Like whenever you go to about add-ons or about preferences, these maybe unsurprisingly, this is a browser element hosting this content. And then like, where's the themes? Yeah, this is a browser element. But what's particularly interesting about add-ons is that there are like browsers embedded within browsers. So let me give you an example. Let's install an add-on. Let's install a classic example. Let's install uBlock Origin, which is a great ad blocker. So suppose we add this extension. So now it's listed here. So this is a browser that's hosting this content. If we go inside here, we can see that there's like a permissions section of actually, so this is a bad example. This is a bad example because uBlock doesn't offer what I'm thinking of. Let me find a different example. Share backported is a good example, because I know this one has what I'm looking for. So let's add this add-on. So this add-on, share backported, has this preferences tab. And this preferences tab renders stuff from within the extension that the extension defines itself and its own content. And so this preferences UI is running inside a like sub browser within the about add-ons browser. So browsers can be nested, and we want to be able to tag browsers in particular ways so that we can like exclude certain browsers and include certain browsers with certain window actor pairs, JS window actor pairs. So for example, the browser in here, it's JS like this browser, it's unlikely that we would want to ever know about like picture in picture in this kind of browser. Videos are not supposed to be played in here. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it would work. Same with like what's another example? Refresh blocker is a protection tool that we use to avoid sites from like trying to refresh itself too many times, like spamming you with the inability with refreshes and stuff. I don't think we'd ever want that actor pair operating inside here. Having it run is not only probably not useful, it's also a waste of memory instantiating those things. And memory is at a premium, like you don't instantiate stuff you don't need. And so the content process that this runs, and if it doesn't need it, we shouldn't run the actor, because it's at the very least a waste of memory, and maybe even CPU cycles. Another one I can think of is like favicon stuff. Like we have actors that know whenever the favicons load for a particular page so that we can cache them and quickly access them and that sort of thing. And having that favicon stuff work for this little preferences browser makes no sense. So being able to tag these individual browser elements, like content browsers, these things, it's a very poorly named group, a very poorly named message manager group, but we just call it browsers. But basically, they're the ones that you think of as a browser tab. And those ones, we probably want almost all of the actors working. We want all the actors. We want all the protections. But it's for the special ones, like this little browser, the DevTools one, like what they're saying in that bug. This is also a browser element running this stuff. We don't want this thing to have like the refresh blocker. We don't want to have the favicon thing. It doesn't need it, and that's not useful. So I agree that using the message manager groups is the right technique. I agree that using message manager groups is probably the right technique here. I believe it's as simple as tagging your browser type equals content, not tagging, adding a new attribute to your browser type equals content type browser with what was it, message manager group. Yeah, message manager group equals such and such identifier, where your group, I chose DevTools as the group name, but it's really up to you. Then that should sequester all of the, I believe that should sequester all of the JS window actors, then put, where's a good example of using message manager group? Then I put message manager groups DevTools register your actors with, I believe that should sequester all of those actors, just JSON actors, to browser elements with your group, regardless of process. Okay, clearing the need info. Clearing the need info. Next up, let's see. Pip button Z index not respected with semi-transparent div. Create a video element and add a semi-transparent div on the right. Click on the pip button that is below the div. The pip window is open. The pip window should not be open since there's a div with a higher Z index on top of the pip button. That is not true necessarily. This is by design. Maybe the default should be something a bit smaller. Yeah, yeah, we currently use a threshold of 0.9 for visibility. Here's the test case. Let's take a look at the test case here. And that opens up in this picture-in-picture window. Possibly this should be a bit smaller. Where did I just close? Did I just close the tab? I did. Okay. Possibly it should be smaller. We have to balance carefully. Some sites use transparent overlays to represent the paused state of their videos, which we still want users to be able to use pip through. Let's see, the visibility threshold, I think by default we use a toggle visibility threshold of 1, unless the site is supposed to have a different one. In this particular case, this site is, let's look at the example again. What is the opacity here? It's 0.8. So even that is, it's too transparent. Like that's even if we were using the YouTube override, that's only 0.9. So let's do an example. Let's prepare a build that uses a slightly different threshold. Picture-in-picture toggle child.jsm. Threshold. Let's make this easier on ourselves by having a constant default visibility threshold equals 1.0 to start. Threshold. Visibility threshold. Here it is. Okay, now let's set this to 0.8 and see if that fixes things. And then let's surf around and see what breaks. Maybe nothing will break, but we won't know. That's the problem, is that we just don't know all the different sites out there. So what is the site example? Here we go. All right. So yeah, now this is not accessible because the threshold's higher. And if we use the YouTube threshold, I don't know, why is this artifact build so slow? I believe if we use the, hey, come on now. Yeah, if we use the YouTube threshold, it's still not low enough. And it allows the, allows it. Possibly it should be smaller. We have to balance carefully. Some sites use semi-transparent overlays. So let's see if we can find an example of a site that breaks so that we can respond and show an example. So let's see what's out there. I'm really curious about why build faster takes like 10 seconds. That's ridiculous. That's slow. Okay, so the obvious ones, we're going to try YouTube. Start there. Here's some deep focus music. Okay, so obviously that still works. Here, I'm going to pause this. And clicking through this was why the original overlay threshold was originally introduced, was because of this menu. But what about whenever we're in this sort of like mini player? See, it uses a semi-transparent overlay, so that works. Okay, good. Vimeo. If you've got any other example video sites you want me to test, let me know. What's a good Vimeo test site? Well, let's try CodeRush. CodeRush, first full film. Okay, that works. Let's see. Is there a different state for it? Not really. Okay. Maybe some news sites.
This mud.
Paused. Seems okay. What are some other sites? Give me your favorite. Daily Motion. Daily Motion.
Definitely.
That still works. Let's see. Danny Colin says, I still think it'd be nice to have a page or browser action to toggle pip so you always have a fallback if the indicator is broken on a website. That's true. That might be nice and maybe something we can investigate in the future. But in the meantime, you can use the keyboard shortcut, which on Linux should be Control-Shift close square bracket. On Windows or on Mac OS, it's Command Control Shift square bracket. No, sorry, Command Option Shift square bracket.
The tones change. I think there is very much more an openness to collab.
On Linux, I think it's just Control Shift square bracket. I think that's what you're using, Danny Colin. But I think the video has to be playing for that shortcut to work, so that it knows which one to focus. Or that's what we're using as our heuristic. So far, I'm not finding any examples. Let me see. Apple Trailers was another one that people had reported issues on back in the day. I won't play too much of this because I don't want to get sued. But let's see here. Pause. Works fine. Okay. So we could set the default visibility threshold to 0.8. I did a quick test using a default visibility threshold of 0.8. This allows the test case to not cause the toggle to work while still keeping the toggle working on YouTube, Vimeo, and Dailymotion, and just a few news sites that I did a cursory test on. Apple Trailers. We would probably want to be able to, if we did decide to decrease the threshold a little bit, we'd probably want this to be a pref in case we need to quickly roll out an alternative rollout a fix. I'm just curious actually how much this whether or not this patch that we've just hacked together whether or not it passed tests. Let's run the tests real quick. Oh, you know what? The tests aren't going to work if I do it in headless mode. I think I know that. While we're running this test, let me just take a quick look at the chat. For mouse-centric users, yeah, adding a button, maybe. I think we're trying real hard to avoid adding more noise to the toolbar and the URL bar. It's already like Proton reduced a bunch of the noise already, and we don't want to like let that creep back in. And so we have to be pretty cautious about what we reintroduce. How about these test videos, eh? Pretty cool. Is there a context menu item for pip on native video elements? That's correct. There's also a context element, although this only works if the underlying video element or the DOM underlying the mouse cursor isn't capturing the mouse events, which is, I find at least, what normally happens. Like YouTube is kind of a misnomer or an outlier, although it does capture context menu events on the first right click. So you have to like double right click on a YouTube video to access the native context menu, which is a really awkward gesture. But for most video players like that I can think of, I believe the context menu generally doesn't work. I think they usually just show you like the normal, the DOM context menu. Oh, Twitch is another example of what we should test. You're right. I haven't tested Twitch. I should do that. Didn't you have to change it to 0.9? No. 0.9 was the threshold that we used for YouTube. 0.8 was the threshold that test case is using. And so by having the default threshold be 0.8, we satisfy it in that case. Perhaps making this a browser action could be a web extension. Perhaps. We have not actually investigated creating a web extension API for picture-in-picture, although it's something that we should maybe consider, because the consideration there, though, is that whenever you introduce a web extension API, you got to stick with it. You can't really change your mind much. Like, it has to be stable. Whoa! Failing tests. But you know what? I've seen this one before for resize video. I think it happens whenever I'm on a high density display. These tests fail. So I think the tests actually, like the ones that I care about, not the resizing one, but all the threshold ones still pass. So like the patch that I just wrote would probably be fine, but what we would probably want as well is for this to be a preference. And the way that the preferences work here is we'd have to like feed it in. But before I do that, let me try Twitch. So yeah, about web extension APIs, you have to stick with it. You can't just sort of like throw one out there and hope. You've got to like, so yeah, this still works, which is nice. There's a strange white line in the stream apparently. Where is there a strange white line? Here? Yes, it is. Sorry. It's the top of my green screen. Let me adjust my green screen. One moment. There we go. Is that better? No, not better. Lighting. I can't tell. Now I've just looked into an LED bulb and now my eyes are completely broken. Hopefully that's a little bit... that's worse. I apologize. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. Try moving that back a little. That's way worse. That is way worse. Moving forward. I'm getting distracted. Sorry. I think that's going to be the best I can do about the white line. Yeah, so that's the problem with web extension, or not really a problem, but it's the sort of thing that if we're going to design a web extension API, we have to commit and be willing to hold to that API for like years. Because like when you deprecate an API, you have to be really deliberate. You have to make a solid surface, a solid platform for people to write stuff on, and you can't just be like willy-nilly changing, how picture-in-picture works, and like the API and stuff. So. Things to consider. So it works for Twitch as well. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add Twitch to this list. Quickly roll out a fix. What do you think are to start? Did you want me to build... give you a test build with a lower visibility threshold on the toggle for you QA to test? Actually, what I can do is I can just take this patch that I wrote and submit it to try. Here's what I'll do. Commit lower default pip toggle visibility threshold to 0.8. I'm trying to compute what you're saying, Danny Colin. It's my areole. I don't know if you... I believe you might mean aura. And areole is the area around a human nipple. I'm pretty sure. I don't think that's what you meant. I hope it's not my areole. That is not... Woo! I'm pretty sure you mean aura. Pretty sure you mean aura. Okay. Let's push this up to try. Oh, the thing over the head of an angel. A halo. A halo. I think that's what you mean. Translate halo from English to French. Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Let's move on. Let's move on. So I'm gonna push this up to try. What I'll do is chooser artifact, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to produce some test builds for people to try. Maybe QA, the reporter could try, for example. I don't know what this person's on Linux, so I'm going to create a Linux build, a Mac OS build, and a Windows build. Some just optimized builds for people to try out. So sometimes the mock try thing takes a second for it to sort of think things through. While we're waiting for that, let's take a look at our next neat info. Browser search doesn't work reliably with Fission enabled. See, this is a web extension API right here. Browser search. I'm not familiar with that. Search web extension. Whoops. Oh, this is right. Try chooser. Okay. So Linux 64, Mac OS 64, Win 64. We only want opt builds. Just build them. Push. You know what? It's going to complain because I have not added my SSH key. It's going to be like, hey, don't do that. Okay. Yeah. So I have to add my SSH key, and then I can do mock try again without having to re-request this stuff. Meanwhile, let's pull up the definition of search. Perform a search using the search engine specified or the default search engine if no search engine is specified. That's interesting. I didn't realize that we had an API for that. SSH add. Mock try again. Okay, and apparently that's not working. When was this introduced? This is a Firefox only API that was introduced in 63. Very interesting. So if an add-on has the search permission and they define a browser action, they query for the active tab. There's a get for searches. What does get do? Search, get, retrieve all search engines. I see. I guess it's an array, and what it does is like it creates an about blank tab, and then we say, hey, I'm going to choose a random search engine and do a search query for the query search query using the random search engine's name with a particular tab. I believe this is tab browsing rather than search related. As far as I can tell, what gets passed through to OpenLinkedIn is consistent and correct. It always has the correct search URLs and is indicated to load the current tab. If I add a breakpoint, then the issue goes away, at least in the non-Fission case. This makes me think it's process switching related timing, since Fission is likely to be changing processes more often. Or if I might be able to look into this or know who to pass it to. The first click on the browser action will yield a blank tab. However, every subsequent click on the browser action will open a tab and then the search query. Each second click on the browser action will yield a blank tab if Fission is enabled. So first click, you create a search query. Second click, blank tab. Third click, search query. Fourth click, blank tab. Interesting. Yes, the question about opt, non-opt. Yeah, optimized builds. That is correct. Whoever answered that question, thank you for answering the question. So when these builds are done, I'm gonna pass the links to the builds over to the folks in this bug, and they can try it out and drive them around a little bit and see what they think. Okay, so for this, I think we're actually going to have to build a simple toy add-on. Basically, create this add-on that's being described here to sort of diagnose this. So to do that, I will create a directory test add-on. I'm just going to call it, what? Bug 1741694. Oh. Bug 1741694. And then we're going to write the manifest, and then write the background script, and then I think I can just do like webxt run in here. Now that creates a web extension immediately, but it's using which version of Firefox? 94.01, and I'll bet you Fission is not enabled by default. Disabled by default. Can I, I'm actually curious to know whether or not I can enable a preference, a Firefox preference. Otherwise, I can just point this at like a nightly, which should have Fission enabled by default. Let's check now. Not now. Start browsing. Support. Disabled by default. Okay, so it seems like there's some kind of like profile persistence here. If I go to like config Fission auto start true quit and then rerun this, do I get the same profile? No, I do not. Okay, so is there a way I can pass some prefs to Firefox? No, but I can point it at a profile. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to create a new profile. Here's what I'll do. About profiles. Create a new profile. We're going to create a profile for this bug, which is called bug 1741694. And then oh, do I have to pass in the path? Directory or a name. Okay. So P. Oh, man. What have I done? All right. Webxt run -p bug 1741694. Cool. Okay, now let's enable Fission. Shut down. Do it again. Now Fission should be enabled. What? Come on. What? That's the wrong profile folder, yo. 174. I want this folder. So maybe I just have to pass the full path. Come on. -P, right? -- Firefox profile. Maybe it needs to be in quotes because of that space. All right. No, this is broken. This is broken. It's not accepting my Firefox profile argument. Oh, I can set a preference here. Well, that makes things easier. So instead, I'll do web x run -- pref fission.auto start equals true. So about support, we should say, yeah, fission's enabled. Great. Oh, did not mean to shut down there. Okay. Okay, I am reproducing the issue. Every other click results in a blank tab. Okay, so let us try and debug this a little bit. Inspect. Can we open this in a new window? No? They have to be here? Okay, fine. Now I set a breakpoint there, and then it navigates it. It's almost like the attempt of calling browser search on a thing that was just created is failing. So what does browser search do? Let's open up our browser toolbox. So yeah, I think standard 8's right. We've got like a race here somewhere. Tab. Okay, so if I set a breakpoint here, or rather let's log search properties.tab ID. The found tab ID is, and the found tab is. Okay, so now we should get some logging. It doesn't navigate it, so it fails to navigate whenever it calls load search from extension. So let's take a look at load search from extension. What does that do? Open link in. I think I'm basically following the same path that standard 8 did. So where's the part where we direct a tab to go somewhere? browser. If where equals tab or where equals tab shifted, W equals get top when true. And then we're loading the link in an existing browser window. If where equals current. Well, where, that's a good question. Where is the where that is being like computed? So browser utility overlay on line 573. 573. Let's see what the where is computed for our test case here. Are we still at a breakpoint? All right, let's not have any breakpoints. We have some log points, no breakpoints. Okay, where current. Where current. Okay, so we're going to be entering here. And somehow we're going to get the tab for the browser if URL is not crash content. Load where equals tab, load background false, where tab else. And this condition is if where is current. And there's a target browser. Else where is tab or shifted. So I think where will still be current. What is where here? Current. Okay. And then we call target browser create about blank content viewer, and then we tell it to load URI. Load URI. URL.spec. So let's close some tabs here. Undefined. Oh, is this supposed to be just a string? Load URI. So that was supposed to be Wikipedia, and then we don't do anything. Do we do this about blank thing? Forcing about blank creation. It's weird how it oscillates too. That's a really weird part of this. Yeah, it doesn't create an about blank content viewer. We just tell it, hey, load this URI, and then it seems to fail the second time. Now, what else do we know? Let's see if we can get some information about the tabs and what processes they're in. Maybe we can determine a pattern. So if we can expose the content process IDs, that would be useful. And I think there's a pref to do that. OSPID. Where's the thing that puts the tab title? Title. So let's see permanent private browsing mode. This is for the individual. This is for the tabs. Tab browser tab is an individual tab. Title. Label. text label. Tooltip. That's what it is. Set secondary tooltip. It's the tooltip. Get tab tooltip. I got a feeling that's... Here we go. Content PID. Browser tabs, tooltips show PIDs and activeness. Excuse me. That's what we want. And it does this at runtime, so I don't think we have to restart. True. All right, let's close some tabs. Let's do this again. 63554. 63926. 63967. 63971. So there's no pattern. 63987. Excuse me. Oh, I think my throat's starting to give out a little bit. It's weird how it's like, nope, yes, no, yes. Why does every other one fail? At this point, I would probably want to use... is it just Wikipedia? I don't think so, because sometimes Wikipedia will show up. It's just like every other one. eBay. Here's Wikipedia. It's just every other one. Why every other one? Let's look at the code again. What it does is it, on click, we get the active tab. After getting the search engines, we create a new tab pointed at about blank. What happens if we, for example, tell it to use just the active tab ID? So this will auto refresh, so I don't have to, the new add-on. So it'll just, so this appears to do the right thing, although Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, Wikipedia, Bing, Amazon. So that doesn't oscillate. But creating a new About Blank tab and sending it to that tab appears to fail. Excuse me. Part of me thinks that this might be where the PIDs, even or odds, or random. I'm guessing it's going to be random. Like it's, let's try. Let's look. Just for, so it's like, that's odd. I don't see how the PID number, even or oddness, that's even. Because that's really, that's even. That's even. That's odd. That's odd. Yeah, like I don't see, because like that's really, we're seeing a very regular pattern. Works, doesn't work. Works, doesn't work. And something like PIDs are so like noisy because, you know, the operating system is really just kind of like handing us basically a random PID. I mean, they're always ascending. You can kind of guess the range that the PID is going to be in, and that was a good guess. I'm glad. Sorry, I shouldn't be torching this idea. I apologize if that's what it's coming across as. I think it was a good idea to think about, but yeah, in this particular case, it's so regular that something is oscillating, and I don't understand what it could be. Throat. Okay, so I have an idea. I want to do this on my Linux box. Let me see how long it would take to build. Is my Linux machine running? How long would it take to build a debug build on my Linux machine? Whoops. The reason I ask is because that's the one that has RR on it. And then we could like really get down and dirty with what's going on. So my VM is not running on this machine. Let me just see if I can kick off a build. Resume virtual machine. And failing that, I feel like we could also create a... do I have a debug build of... I'm trying to think of what I could do in the remaining time. How much time do we have? All right, let me see if I can get beast mode up and running. Beast mode is the name of my VM. Let's see how fast I can get a debug build working on it. This is from October 21st. I haven't run this VM in a while, but do I have debug build? Which this is an artifact build with debug. Do I have a debug build around? Let's find out. Let me see what happens if I let me see what happens if I run hang on. I should do this on screen so you can see what I'm doing. Sorry. I'm going to clobber the artifact build in this directory so free up some hard drive space because my VM has limited hard drive space. I can only really... I should resize the partition, but I can really only have one build at a time before it starts really complaining. Oh, my throat. Oh, clobber. Come on. All right. Build with debug. Build. Let's see how long this is going to take. Because I don't know what my SC cache story is on this machine. Whether or not I've got fully saturated cache here. If I have a fully saturated recent debug build cache, then this will only take a couple of minutes and we can start investigating. If not, this is going to be it's going to take too long. It's going to take too long. And so I'll have to do the investigation elsewhere. So let's let this sort of bake for a little bit and let's look at a different question. Oh, maybe our builds here are almost done. They are. So I can like... oh, well, we have to wait for our Windows build still. It's been queued for 21 minutes. Come on. All right, well, we can't answer that other need info just yet. Let's move on to a pip toggle glitch in high contrast mode. Lots of pip bugs. Tested with release 92, beta 93. If you have high contrast mode enabled, make sure you have a Firefox profile where pip was toggled before. There's a small line displayed above the pip toggle. Oh, interesting. So that means we end up painting a rectangle as 2 by 8 in high contrast mode because the background none color inherent gets overridden with the HCM background foreground. Oh, and then this was fixed 21 days ago. It was backed out for causing a Moki test failure. And so someone actually tried to fix this, and there was a Moki test failure in mouse button variation. Okay, so maybe we can help this person. Let's see. First of all, whenever I'm doing stuff like this, let me pump up the font so you can see what I'm doing. We have our old like toggle opacity threshold thing applied. So let's switch back to central. Let that build cook. Okay, while that build's cooking, I want to take a look at. Yeah, we're missing a lot of. We're not doing a lot of cache misses here. This is going to take a while, this build. If I was doing a lot of cache hits, then I'd be like, oh, this will only take a couple of minutes. But because most of these are cache misses, it's going to be a slower build. Clearly, I haven't done a debug build on this machine for a while. That's not so good. Okay, so let's apply this person's patch. Well, first of all, what did the patch do? The patch worked by changing us from using a button to a div with roll button. Interesting. Okay. We'll need to make sure this div is focusable as well. Roll button. And the mouse button variations, here's the failure log. Expected to get the right mouse events. We expected to get a click mouse event. I see. Okay. Well, let's see if we can reproduce the test failure, and then we'll look more deeply into it. Toolkit, components, picture-in-picture test, browser. What was it? Mouse button variation. So this test should fail. That's my guess. That's if we're gonna have any luck helping this person with this test should fail. And then we can look more deeply into it. Okay, it failed. Good. Let's look at mouse button variation. Test that if the user's mouse down on a picture-in-picture toggle, but then mouse ups on something completely different, that we still open a picture-in-picture window and that the mouse button events are all suppressed. Right. How does that work? Expected to get the right mouse events. That actually occurs, I think, in the picture-in-picture tests head.js. Expected to get the right mouse events. We expect a click mouse event. Mouse button events. If we expect events, then it should be this. We expect nothing. Oh, I see. We expect No, no, no. Hold on a second. We record, get recorded events. And we saw a click event. And we expected no events. We expected no events. That's what happened. So is expecting events should be false. Assert saw mouse events false. How does this work? Promise focus, ensure video is ready, and then we prepare for a toggle click. We synthesize a mouse at the center of the... Hover the mouse over the video to reveal a toggle, which is necessary if we want to click on it. Wait for the toggle to become visible, and then click on the toggle. We expect it to open. Synthesize mouse down and mouse up, and then we expect it to open. Then mouse up's on something completely different. Has this test changed? This only seems to test the like actual clicking on. Mouse down, mouse up. We wait for it to open. Then we close the window. Test that if a user's mouse down on a picture-in-picture toggle, but then mouse up's on something completely different, that we still open a picture-in-picture window. Where's the mouse? Oh, I see, I see. We mouse up on something else. We mouse up in the top left corner. I see. And the mouse button events are all suppressed. Also ensures that a subsequent click event on the document by results in all mouse button events firing normally. So we appear to be still seeing a click event here. And that is unexpected. Okay. That's interesting. Top left. Mouse up. Why are we still firing a click event? The actual test document that does the monitoring for the events is here. Click event helper just records events of these types. HTML. Which one would it be working on? Test page, probably. Click event helper. So on pointer down, on mouse move, on mouse button event. State is clicking toggle, then we stop immediate propagation. We set state is clicking toggle to true if we see a pointer down in the toggle region. So let's add some logging here. Saw event.type stopping propagation. Dump else dump not stopping propagation. How's our build going? Pretty slow. Okay, so what happened here? Pass, saw event, mouse down, stopping propagation. Stopping propagation on mouse up, and then we're not stopping propagation, and that's when we fail. So at some point, is clicking toggle became false. If is mouse up on other target, on other element. If this is a mouse up event, check to see if we have a record of what the original target was on pointer down. If so, and if it doesn't match the mouse up original target, that means we won't get a click event, and we can clear the clicking the toggle state right away. Otherwise, we wait for the click event to do that. If mouse up on other element and event type equals event type mouse up and the clicked element is not the original target, then it's a mouse up on another element. What? If this is a mouse up event, check to see if we have a record of what the original target was on pointer down. I wrote this. I feel like I should understand it. If we do have a record of it, and if it doesn't match the mouse up's original target, that means we won't get a click event. That's true. Why are we getting a click event? If event.type equals mouse up, what is the event.original target inner HTML or outer HTML? Clicked target, mouse up target. And then original target. Original clicked target. State.clicked element.get. Dot outer HTML. I think something like that'll work. A button might behave differently, that's why. Mouse up target, the original clicked target is this div, and the mouse up target is this class. Yeah, I think a button behaves differently. That's why. So, if we take a look at videocontrols.js, this thing, if we make it, oh wait a second, why are we only putting it on the no controls? That's the other thing. It's only on, we're gonna have a problem with, there's another one down here. This one also has the issue, and it's not being addressed by the author. Actually, that's interesting. So I can actually, instead of changing the code, I can use this video, the controls case, to show what happens whenever there is a button. And that also failed. Oh, video equals null. Is it, maybe it's called something else. Is it with controls? I think that's what it is. Smurfy asks whether or not I've checked to see whether or not the test has changed since I last wrote it. Good question. Mouse button variations. I don't think it has. I got a feeling this has been pretty straightforward. Oh, a little bit. I added some changes. variation.js. This one added a test to make sure that we wait for the video to be cloning, I guess. So it didn't change it much. Okay, so when we click on a clickable, div pip small clickable, within the button, and mouse up on the document body, we don't get the click event. And then before, we mouse down on the clickable, but what we're mousing up on is actually the video controls. That's interesting. So we're still within like the shadow DOM here. So how's mouse up work? We're mouse upping at 1:1. Let's see what this browser window looks like. Await, new promise, resolve, set timeout, resolve. 15 seconds. Put 15 seconds on the clock. We're gonna choose the no controls case. So 1:1 should actually be right here. Hang on. Mouse up. Why is the mouse up at 1:1? You know, what we could do, instead of doing a mouse up at that target, we could try and mouse up just as a test. Synthesize mouse at center of a particular target. And of like the header. So test page, the header here of the first H1. So synthesize mouse at center, type mouse up, and then the target can be a CSS selector, I believe. Yeah, so let's choose the first H1 to do our mouse up, and let's see what it spits out now. We'll get rid of our sleep. Headless. Ooh, our build failed. What happened? Why'd our build fail? Wow, this is a lot of... What the heck? Alright, I don't understand what all that is talking about. But let's run mock build again. Okay. Mouse down. The mouse up still thinks it's the video controls. Now, is this related to the fact that there is a roll of button on this? No. What the heck? Synthesize mouse at center. Mouse up. What if I don't synthesize a mouse up? I'm curious what it does then. Alright, I'm starting to fade. I might have to end the stream in a second. My throat is starting to fall apart on me. Interesting, it still sees a mouse up target. Mouse up target. Interesting. Interesting. So a very sort of one way we could fix this potentially is to not use this condition. I think. But I don't know what else that breaks. What the? That certainly did not fix things. 71. 71. Oh, at point. So we got the right mouse events. Oh, and we still have our sleep in here. Like this should fix it, but I don't know if it's the right move. Like if I go to a site that has no video controls like YouTube, first of all, the positioning of this is wrong now. But that does work. And what was the other recommendation? Let's really be button as a container. Set padding, ensure the positioning that I can shift for after. Using a div instead of a real button, ensure we don't lose any keyboard accessibility. Button is horizontal and vertical padding. It means we end up painting a rectangle because the background none and color and hair gets overwritten with the HCM background foreground. Set padding to 0 and ensure the positioning of the icon doesn't shift. Okay, so hi Noah. Thanks for the patch. So a few things jump out. One, we need where your patch modifies the no controls binding, video controls binding, no controls video UA widget binding, but doesn't also, but needs to modify the controls version of it here. So we need to supply a link. just applying your patch locally, it looks like the positioning of the toggle is affected by changing. Hang on, video controls. .css button. Control bar button. Closed caption button. Control. Picture toggle button. Okay. Looks the position is by changing from a button to a div. We should ensure that the positioning is not affected by your patch. 3. It seems that switching from a button to a div changes some of the event characteristics. Within the UA widget itself. Before, clicking on the where is it? Clicked element. This is what I want to show them. Before your patch, mouse downing on the toggle and then mouse upping on a different region of the page would result in no click event being fired. After your patch, the click event does fire. Click events, no click event, no, I shouldn't say it wouldn't fire, would result in the click event being suppressed here. The logic in there, how this works is by looking at the original target of the pointer down event and comparing it with the target of the mouse up event. If they're different, then sufficiently different, I shouldn't say sufficiently different. If they're different, then we know no click event is going to fire, and we can skip attempting to suppress the click event. With your patch applied, it looks like the condition is mouse up on other element is returning true. It looks like is returning true for mouse up in the test when before it didn't. Let's see if we can get this person more history. You can find more history behind that test logic where it originally landed here. What I'd actually recommend is option 1 from Heiss's comment. 1. Keep the button, but try to eliminate the padding and the padding of the button. Okay, I'm gonna clear that need info. Did we ever get our builds here? We did. So I'm gonna pass the links along to these builds. Copy link. Test builds with 0.8 toggle visibility threshold. Linux 64. Mac OS. Where's Mac OS? Target.dmg. There it is. Win64. And with that, I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to go get some tea, drink some warm tea, rest my throat, and hopefully I'll be in better shape. Next week. All right. Hey, we got through some neat infos. We got through this one, this one. We didn't get to this one, but I've got a debug build going, and we got through this one. We did not get to these two. I'm going to have to do them on my own. And with that, I'm going to close out. Thank you for watching episode 271 of The Joy of Coding. Let me know what you think I should do for the December 15th holiday episode. You can submit ideas or your thoughts by the rate this episode link in the agenda. I want to hear from you. So let's have it. Let's go. And with that, I'm going to call it. So thanks again. Have yourselves a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.